Hi, this is another introduction using this whiteboard. Probably this lecture is in this April 10th, and that is lecture number 4, part B. Part A is uploaded already, and to explain a little bit more in detail about the schedule, because the worldwide coronavirus pandemic situation, the schedule is so variant. If the headquarters is deciding to provide some offline or extended online, depending upon that schedule may be changed a little bit. But anyhow, to understand the future plan, I will explain briefly about this. Online quiz, as I explained already, will take the practice quiz test to prepare the main quiz test. To prepare, we'll take practice quiz test. Probably you can try 5 times at least, at most. Later I may change it a little bit, but at this moment 5 trials, that is the maximum attempts to get this practice test. And that practice quiz test will be available after April 3rd. And the class number 1 from 10:30 a.m. and class number 2 from 15 p.m. This practice quiz test is available, thus you can try that practice quiz test. 10 questions, and you should solve in 10 minutes. That time may be sufficient to solve that 10 questions. After you are getting some practice and you are very familiar with that quiz test, you will take this main quiz test, and that will be easy to manipulate that quiz test with your smartphone or with your PC. And now this practice test, even though that is practice test, that points will be applied. There's the final points, thus you should be careful, as I mentioned already, that will be applied. There's that the final trial that should be tested carefully. And after that, April 15th, as I mentioned, that is probably fifth week, and that is first offline lecture, I hope. And that may be changed, but at this moment, I hope. And the room number as the schedule agenda sheet, B03, room number B03. And that case is the main quiz test. There's just one trial, one attempt. That's it. And the 20 questions in 10 minutes. That is really compressed. You should proceed as soon as possible. And class number 1, April 15th, April 17th, and class number 2, April 17th, but the time is different, 10:30 as our lecture schedule. We'll take that. And the URL to take that practice quiz test and even that main quiz test, you should use this URL, blackboard.sejong.ac.kr. Please do not use this Blackboard app, because the tag, HTML tag, those are interpreted in the question that thus I cannot ask properly. With our previous experience, thus we'll use this one to your smartphone or to your PC. Also, I am checking your capability of manipulating QG test. Online QG test in the Blackboard. Thus, you should be familiar to that QG test. Based on that practice, you are becoming very familiar to that, I hope. If there's some mistake, then you are not supposed to get another chance. And thus you should be careful, and you need to get practice sufficiently. Case 1, we can consider two cases. Because of the pandemic situation, that condition may be changed. If we can use this room, that means offline lecture. If we can take that offline lecture, then we will take that main QG test in this room, our scheduled room, B03. But in case, if we need more extended online lecture, then you can use any materials to take this quiz test, but only at the fixed time. I will announce later in the Blackboard or also in the bulletin board. I'll announce in advance. In that case, you can use any lecture-related materials, but I will focus on the video clips in the YouTube or in the Blackboard. Those are same. You can start into that video lecture. You can prepare in advance about the midterm exam, probably and hopefully offline on-site midterm exam. Then that will be held in May 1st, and that is the 7th week, and the Friday, the 6 to 8 p.m. And please keep in mind about that schedule. At the same time, class number 1 and 2 will take at the same time, at the same place. Okay, that's it about the introduction in this lecture number 4. That means in the week, first week, and part B lecture. And I will use the computer, and as we learned already, we learn about some application of the HTML5, and that name portal wopen.com or wopen.net, that name portal that will be introduced as an example of using that HTML5 and the implementation of HTML5 in their application. Okay, that's it about this introduction. I'll wrap up here. Today's lecture is first week, lecture number 4, part B. We just finished, completed the whole HTML tutorial 5 in part A. Today is April 17th. I will introduce some real example, especially about this name portal. Before that, let's look at this very simple single web page. That is the web page for this spring semester about this web programming lecture. Here you can click the right button of your mouse, then you can see the view page source. Then you can see the source code for that. Here, document type HTML, and that language is KO means Korean. And here some head section. Inside of that head section, you can see the meta tag and the title here. And this title will be shown here, like this. Now we are looking at the source code, so let's continue. This style, from here to here, that is JavaScript, the CSS style, and it is very simple cascading style sheet. Here, internal CSS. We are using this image here. Dot means class, name is following. Pseudo class hover. While my mouse is hovering, and the style is defined here. And that will be used in this web page. And let's look at that the class number array 41, late 41. Somewhere here, image. That image, late 41. Those using this image element is using late 41 class name. And the style will be changed depending upon that style definition. And that is about this. You can see when my mouse is hovering on this image, then you can see that will be enlarged. You can see the bigger image that is defined. Let's look at, and that is defined here. The width 600 pixel, height 400 pixel. That is enlarged size. And later we will look at this Z index. That is the order of showing the image on the screen. And later we look at this one, and later we learn about this in the CSS tutorial. And now here I am just introducing briefly, even though this one is very simple web page, this one is using JavaScript, even CSS, and of course HTML5 is being used. This div tag here, and this break line. And before that, let's look at again the front part here, and the link here. As we learned, the relationship is style sheet, and the hyperlink, the reference URL is here. That is the CSS file, external CSS file. And that is the header section. And let's look at this main body section here. And the background color, background will be like this, background color, and very simple web page. And the paragraph is defined like this, and some hyperlinking URL here. Let's look at this part in the previous web page here. This one is about that. If I am clicking this one, then you can see after clicking we can reach here. This one is the simple introductory bulletin board to provide some guide about this lecture, as you have seen already. We also will look at the source code for that later, after finishing this one first. And after that you can see other hyperlinked URL here, and some image and some class name to get some class that is the CSS style. And some you can see this ampersand MBSP semicolon. That is mainly to provide some empty space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 empty space. Okay, this one. Empty space somewhere here. And if you are trying to provide some empty space, then this ampersand MBSP that should be used. And finally, mail to this one about this. Then you can see after clicking this one, you can see this message, but this one is Korean. Sorry about that. To take some mail program. To link to that mail program. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at this real application using HTML5 and CSS3 and also JavaScript. This one is name portal, which I named, and I built this one just to introduce very simple example of that implementation of this HTML5 and so on. Okay, let's look at the source code for that. Source code for that. Okay, if you are using the right button of your mouse, after clicking that, you can see this one, and you can choose view source code, view page source. Then you can see the source code for that. You can enlarge a little bit. Okay, Control plus. Okay, this one is a little bit more complicated. This is Korean, and EHKL, that is Korean character set, and we are using some viewport as we learned. Content with equal device use, user scalable, that is yes, and the initial scale will be 1. Maximum scale, the size after that is enlarged, zoom in, that the maximum size will be controlled into this number 3 times. That will be enlarged. Minimum scale will be 1. Also, that can be controlled with this meta tag and in this viewport. And some keywords also, that those information can be provided in this meta tag, and just for reference. And some property also, those are being used, and sometimes those are being provided by the Google or Facebook. Then simply you can bring here. Let's look at this style briefly, because we learned this CSS style in the CSS tutorial later, after completion of this lecture number 4. From the next week, we'll study about that CSS tutorial. And here many style definition about the body element, and we are using some class name, class and class name. At this moment, you don't need to worry about that, and just for reference. Horizontal line and image and some ID name, late 41. When my mouse is hovering, then that's scale, as we learned in the previous example in the youngkim.net simple web page. Same one, like that. And also we can provide some class name here. Here ID name, late 8, and some keyframes for animation. We'll learn this one in the CSS tutorial later. Also, this one is about animation keyframes. Okay, this one is the class name, top right, that is defined, and we learn this position and so on later in the CSS tutorial. This one is about JavaScript. Also JavaScript, you can use other JavaScript statement here, using the script closing tag. Also you can use another JavaScript statement here. Also another one, usually that is provided as an API program by the Google APIs here, and simply you can insert here, and you can use that provided API program. Then you can attach, embed some Google advertisement here. Okay, this is Google advertisement. You can attach more here, but I am introducing my books here. Excuse me. Also, bottom, I just introduced the Google AdSense advertisement just for introduction of this Google's advertisement AdSense. And the others, that is about my book. Also, this one is for the lecture I put in here, and how we can put in. And let's look at that source code here. Let's move to this body area. And inside of that body section also we can embed the JavaScript here. Later we'll learn this one, but at this moment just to get some overall picture about the whole HTML file, which is including that CSS as well as this JavaScript statement. And here div. This is Facebook. And also Facebook is providing some API JavaScript statement. Then simply you can insert here. And later you can then tweet API and the Facebook share button. Those can be embedded here, and when you are clicking this one, then Facebook page will be linked. Here, if you are clicking this one, then Twitter program will be linked. Okay, we are using this table as we learned, and also some hyperlinked URL here. This is for Twitter share button, and the Facebook share button as we just observed in the previous web page here. And many HTML elements which we learned, those are being used here. Instead of looking at the detailed one, just to get some overall perspective about that integrated application using HTML5 elements and the CSS as well as JavaScript. Here table, column, table data, and the table row, those are being used here. And the class name for each one, if we need, then we can use that class. And then here each line, let's look at. Here now we are looking at this part. Dwight Eisenhower, President of the United States. And now that is here. Dwight Eisenhower, late President of USA. And in this way, we can provide this list. One of them is this web programming lecture. If I am clicking this one, then we can see the contents of this web programming lecture guide. Later we'll go there. Before that, let's try to complete this one first. Okay, here, as we learned, in the form element, we can use this method post or get. And here I'm using post. Action. After sending the variable and the value pairs to the server, and the server program, this one will take care of that. This is search program. Here, this is here about this area. Yeah, if I am providing some characters string as a keyword, then that will be searched. And when I am clicking this one, then search program, that is in the server side, that will be invoked here. And in the database, that will be searched. And the result will be back. Here autocomplete to 1, that means here if I am trying to put in some, and if there is something saved, then that will be automatically. Okay, I will try to search this way, nothing here. And later, if I am trying to search again, and that is starting into this R, then you can see this is shown here automatically. That is called autocomplete. Then simply you can click this one. Then instead of typing whole character string, you can choose. That is autocomplete here. And select button here. And anyhow, that will be used here. Here, select this one also. We are select option, and we can choose one of them. We can select. Here you can see many Korean consonant here. Korean, that is Korean alphabet. And here, due to this Korean alphabet, we can simply, this one is about that, we can simply search some keyword that is starting into that Korean consonant. And it is very simple. And if I am clicking this 기억 in Korean pronunciation, then you can see that consonant, that name that is starting into that consonant 기억, that will be searched in the database, and they will be listed here. They will be shown on our screen. Also here you can choose other consonant. Oh, this is the power. Then you can see simply, instead of typing full keyword, simply you can click with your smartphone. If that the number of clicking time that is simple, then that will be enough. That will be good in terms of UI and user experience. All list, and the title is starting to the vowel Raphael R. If you are understanding Korean character for foreign student, it will be very convenient. Okay, how we can implement? That is the main concern in this lecture. And this one is using JavaScript. And that parameter, 기억, that will be sent to the JavaScript function. And that is the event handler program. And click on event handler. That is click on, if as soon as I am clicking, that means click event. That is happening, and that send form here. Let's try to find Control F, send form here. Let's try to find that send form. Probably at the front part, I am looking for that send form. And that is somewhere. Yeah, here. I found this one. Function send form. That character, consonant 기억 or vowel R, those are passed to here, and this JavaScript program will take care of that. And here, this one is sending that to the server, into this program, and that will be sent to the server. And this one is using get method, because many variable and pairs variable and value pairs are enumerated here and sent and to the server, and in the server side the database will be used, and that the keyword, the parameter, that character, if that is a Korean alphabet, and that will be tried to found, and those will be listed, and the result will be sent back to my computer or your screen. Okay, let's move to the next. I am just pointing out some key points instead of the full explanation of each statement, because we couldn't learn the JavaScript yet. Thus later we'll learn. Thus in advance, I'm just briefly introducing the general application example. Okay, in this way, even though those web page is simple, it seems to be very complicated, right? Thus each one, like a Lego piece, we should understand each Lego piece. After that, we can build using that Lego, small Lego pieces. We can build very complex architecture, complex airplane, and even complex building we can build using the small Lego pieces like that. If we understand each HTML element and the CSS style and JavaScript, later we should build up together. We should integrate together, and we should build a very complicated web page, even using the database in the server side. Input tag here, submit button also here, and as I showed you already, this one, send form. Still, this one is trying to find out, search that send form here. This is the JavaScript. In this way, also we can implement. The character is A, B, C, D. In this way or in this way, we can implement same implementation, but in different way. But still, this one is about JavaScript, and later we'll learn about that. And let's move to the last part of this page. And div relate to ID name relate to, those are defined already. This is about the CSS style, and that ID name, that ID should be started with the hash character, as we learned. And also many this is about this. Here you can see many books. This is my book, and if I am clicking this one, then that will be hyperlinked to the this commercial portal, Coupang. And this one's implemented like that. Then this one is, let's look at, I'll copy this one, and let's look at what's that original full URL. You can see this is Coupang, and that is shortened. How we can shorten? Because that is shortened. If that is too long, then it is very difficult to contain here, because that real size is like that. It is really wrong, right? And instead of containing here that long character string, long URL, we can simply shorten that long URL into this very short URL. How? This site is providing that. bit.ly. Here I am pasting that really long URL here, then shorten. Then that will be shortened like that. Then that is same. Like this. This is wrong, and that is shortened, and I will use that. Then you can see the same web page. It's this one. Thus, in this way, we can shorten. It will be very convenient. Sometimes it better use this shortened URL instead of original full URL to contain properly in our web page, like this. The others are also bit.ly, and the images also, as we learned, also this one's using some class. Okay, in that way, I'm just explaining some key concept, important one, and style, position. This is about CSS. We'll learn anyhow later, and this is the end of the body area, body section, and that's it. /HTML. It is closing this HTML file. Okay. Then it's time to look at the contents of our lecture bulletin board, web programming lecture guide. This one is announced March 20th, so long time ago, and I am making this video recording March 31st in advance, and I'm using this one just to understand instead of the contents of this. Okay, let's look at the source code for that. Then simply, as we learned, just click your mouse right button and you can click this one, view source. Then you can see this one similarly like our previous example, but this one is about these contents, web programming lecture, and before there's some Google advertisement and some other images that is hyperlinked to the bookstore, and that is my books. And okay, this one, web programming, this is mainly for Korean students. This is Korean guidebook about this lecture, and if you need this one, then you can refer to this one. It may be helpful, but foreign students, you don't need to worry about that. This is mainly for the Korean students who are not very familiar with that English. Then you can refer to this one. Okay, also this one is hyperlinked like this. Okay, anyhow, let's look at these contents. And that was meaningful, but April 17th today then may not be meaningful, and then maybe change it a little bit. Anyhow, this one is about the mobile quiz test practice, and that is tested. The test date is April 3rd. And like this, I am announcing like this. Also in the Blackboard, I am announcing right after announcing here first time, and later I'll copy this one, and I am announcing in the Blackboard announcement menu, and thus you can refer to that announcement twice in this bulletin board or in the Blackboard announcement menu. Okay, here I am trying to introduce the method how to implement, how to embed this kind of the YouTube video. And this one you might have watched already, this video, web programming. This is about the second week, lecture number 2, and I'll click this one. Then you can see this one will be played, and this is hi. Today we learn YouTube video, second week lecture materials by online. First, okay, let's stop here. Now we are learning just the method how to implement this one with our HTML5. If we need CSS, okay, to implement that we need HTML5 and the CSS. That's it. Okay, let's look at that part. That part I can include here in this way. In this web page, there's some edit one. You can okay, I will show you that part. You can see that source for that. I'm using this iframe, as we learned already in the HTML5 media section. That media section is explaining about the video element and audio element. And here, to include that YouTube, as we learned already, if we know that the YouTube video ID, then simply include here. You can change that video ID, then you can see other video clips. And here the class C, that is the style defined, iframe and class C. Let's look at that one. Iframe and class C. To the previous one, that is here. We are using that one, and let's look at in advance. Iframe and class name. Class C, iframe class C. That's it. This one. You can see width, height, border radius, and the border solid purple color. And even though you couldn't learn this one at this CSS, later we learn. I'm introducing in advance for better understanding later. Yeah, here. Thus, this one is shown, as we learned already. Okay, let's look at that one again. Okay, this one probably. Yeah, this one. You can see the borderline, that color is purple, and the thickness is, as we looked at already, around 7 pixel border thickness. And I didn't simplify this, and I just enumerated it, and it seems to be very complicated. And intentionally, I left this one because I thought I will introduce this one in the lecture. There are so many others, and if I am using that ID name or class name, then I can use different design. If I am defining in that way, then it will be very complicated. If you are using some predefined style, then it will be very convenient. And we'll learn that later. And some predefined style you can use, like this, div. Also, those are the style definition, internal CSS style. And the JavaScript also here in this contents web page, we are also using this JavaScript. And also this one is send form, as we learned already in the previous example. Even in these contents here, let's look at that. Where is that? Yeah, here. Probably at the bottom also we can select this character, and if I am selecting, then that JavaScript function will be invoked, and that character selected one will be sent to the server, and the server will try to search that the title is starting into that character. Then the result will be sent back. That will be sent back to my device, my PC or my smartphone. Then we can see the result like this. Okay. In that way, as the others are just same with the same concept, we can implement in the similar way. Just that is being repeated. iframe and some video ID, iframe and the video ID I can include there. Also, let's look at again. That is like that. Also, that is like that. Those are conceptually same, and many YouTube videos can be included there simply. Even though I am not saving that, I am using these simple characters, I can show that it is very simplified. It is very simplified. Only in my database, only these character strings are stored. And simply the YouTube video can be accessed to this method, and this is very convenient way and simple way in terms of the database size and complexity. I don't need to save the whole YouTube video, and it is really huge size in terms of bytes, gigabytes range, but this one is just a few characters. And for reference, this one and others, as we learned already in this previous example, like this. Like this. At the bottom. Let's go to the end. Okay, here. And at the last part, you can see this one. And let's move to there. Like this. Those are, in terms of the source code, this is edit mode. But if I am looking at the source code for that, and those are embedded. This is text area. Those are embedded here. And in this text area, that is another HTML element text area. Those iframe element or image, those are embedded in this text area tag. Let's look at this one. Let's look at this one, and let's look. This is edit mode, and here I am trying to see the source code, and let's try to find that text area again. Control F, text area. You can see that area, text area can be shown here. Yeah, here. Rows 20 rows and columns 75 characters you can put in. And the mobile quiz test, first one is mobile quiz test practice by smartphone or PC. That is about this. Yeah, here. This area is text area and input area. And the tag name is text area here. Next one we are closing. there's closing text area. Let's look at here until here. And these equal character strings here at the last part of this one is shown there. Okay, thus in this edit mode, we can use this text area as we learned. Okay, let's look at others also. Let's move to the front part. Yeah, here. Form, we are using form. Form name is my form and the method is post, like this. Here, edit, you can find here, edit. And the others are following, like this, 20 web programming. Like this, name. And probably at the later part you can see the title. This is contents. Contents here. Before that, name or title, you can see name or title. Name or title. A program lecture, March 30th. This one, name or title. Okay, we are using input, and we can control the size like this, as we learned already. And the others, similarly, we can implement. Okay, I'll wrap up here. Later, okay, probably that is a brief overall explanation to get some simple perspective about the application using this HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. And those are integrated, and we can provide some real service. And this is one example showing today's name, and that portal name is called Name Portal. Okay, I'll wrap up here.